Very warm welcome today to the Global Sports Channel to Vera Zvonareva. Vera, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. What about you?
I am always fantastic, and I also want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas, because you've been a fantastic inspiration in being able to do this interview for us right on Christmas time. So I want to thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you, and Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you. Now, why don't we start off by telling everyone in the world, whereabouts are you at the moment exactly?
Well, today I'm in Dubai. Preparing for the start of the season.
It's crazy, isn't it? We've had quite a year, and we're going to talk a lot about that as we go forward. But I thought I'd start off by letting you have the opportunity to dedicate your show today to someone special in your life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
Well, for sure to my daughter. She's 4.5 now, and she changed my life for sure. And I'm still able to do what I love to do, to play tennis, and sometimes traveling with my family. It is definitely special.
I wanted to ask you about Evelina, because I wanted to know if she's picking up a tennis racket yet.
Sometimes now, once or twice over the past 2 months, she asked me to play tennis, which was not the case 1 year ago, where she would not even come close to the racket.
Yeah, fantastic. Now let's go back to when you first started playing, because you were also very, very young when you started playing tennis. Is that right?
Yes, at the age of 6.
What got you into tennis at the age of 6?
Well, my mom, she's a former athlete. She used to play field hockey, and she's actually an Olympian herself. She got a bronze medal during Moscow Olympic Games in 1980. And, wherever she traveled around the world, she always was watching people playing tennis, because hockey fields were always around tennis courts. And she fell in love with the game, and she wanted me to try.
And you just fell in love with it as well? Was that how it happened?
Not sure if I fell in love with it right away, but for sure I didn't like to lose. And even if I wasn't excited about my practices and competitions in the beginning, I never wanted to lose. So I had to push myself hard to work harder in the practice so I can win some trophies.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, you started off, was that in Moscow where you were playing?
Yes, I started in Moscow.
So everything was indoor, was it?
Most of the year it is indoor. We play outdoors 4 months a year, and 8 months a year we usually play indoors. And the club I was training at, we only had one tennis court, indoor tennis court, carpet.
Wow.
And you will be surprised, but we also had a big outdoor swimming pool, and during winter time everyone was swimming outdoors.
Is that where the Iceberg Club comes from, is it?
Yes, I think so.
So what about other sports? Were there any other sports on your radar as you got a little bit older, like in your early teens and that, or was tennis just everything that was consuming you?
Yeah, probably it was just tennis. It was quite expensive for us and for my mom to pay for my lessons, so I was just attending the school and then playing tennis. I actually did other sports when I was younger, when I was like 4 or 5 or 6 years old, but then afterwards I was only playing tennis.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
No, I'm the only child.
Okay, so all the focus was on making sure that Vera was playing tennis all the time from mum and dad, was that right?
Well, yes, but I think they were more busy at work, and it is my grandma. She was taking me everywhere, to school, to tennis lessons, to, dance classes or gymnastics sometimes.
It's amazing. Of all the guests I have on the show, nearly every one of them talks about the influence of their grandparents and the support they got from their grandparents. It's really important, isn't it?
For sure. I think I am glad that I had my grandmom in my life, who was supporting me, and I was very close with her. And I think, like everywhere in the world, parents are busy. They are working. They cannot give you as much time as your grandparents can. So I think it's very important to have grandparents in your life when you grow up.
Yeah, very good point. Did you have many tennis idols when you were younger? Were there people that you were looking up to and thinking, wow, they're a superstar or they're fantastic?
Well, for sure, at those times, it was Yevgeny Kafelnikov. He was my idol for sure. Tennis started becoming popular when Boris Yeltsin was president. He kind of introduced the whole country to tennis, and everyone started watching it. Before that, we could rarely see any tennis tournaments on TV. And let's say starting early 90s, it was all the time on TV. And I even met Boris after we won our first Fed Cup title.
Wow, fantastic. So he was actually responsible for the explosion of tennis in Russia, is that right?
Well, I would not say he was a sponsor. I had some other people that were helping my club a little bit, and that we were able to travel sometimes to play some European tournaments. But for sure, it's I think Yeltsin's interest in tennis brought many people into tennis, and many maybe rich, people into tennis, and then those rich people were able to, sponsor sometimes some kids.
What did you enjoy the most about playing tennis when you were little?
Well, for me, it was an opportunity to travel, to meet kids around the world, to see other countries actually, and I think that's what I was playing for. Because early 90s, not so many Russian people could travel around the world. And tennis was giving us this opportunity. And it was just a great experience for me.
When did you first travel overseas to a tournament?
I think it was London, 1992, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 7 years old, and we had kind of an exchange tournament, some British kids came over to Russia for 5 days, and then we flew there for 5 days, and we played a competition. But I think it was because Olga Morozova, former famous Russian player, she used to live in London, and I believe still does, and through her we were able to get in contact with each other and organize this international competition. It was fun.
There must have been a lot of excitement at such a young age to go out of your country and see a different part of the world. Can you remember any of your impressions on what London was like in those days?
Well, I don't remember much about London. I just remember the facilities, we were we were practicing, and for me, they were great, many courts, great gym, and many things that we didn't have in our club, and the food was different. So there were some experiences for me.
Yeah, great. When did you decide that you wanted to take on tennis as a profession and to travel the world doing it full time?
It's tough to say. I never thought my goal, in my mind, I don't remember that I was really focused on becoming a professional. I was just trying to, win as many matches as possible. But then I think around the age of 17, 16, when I was coming out of juniors, and I won my first professional tournament. It was 10,000 tournament in Moscow. Then a year later, I won a 50,000 tournament in the US. And then I made, my first money, which allowed me to travel to other tournaments. And then from there on, I was quite independent. And that's where I decided that, I'm going to try doing this for a living.
Did you have any other ideas about careers? Were there other things that you thought you might like to do in life besides playing tennis back then?
Well, I always had a lot of interest. I always loved studying. It sounds a little bit strange, but I loved it. So I went to the university at the age of, 16, when we finished school in Russia. I got my degree in physical education, which, was something that I felt like if I'm playing tennis, why not study? Then you can always find a job being a coach, in tennis. But then, of course, afterwards, I graduated from the Diplomatic Academy in Moscow, and then I got another degree in the U.S. Global Studies and Political Science. So I always try to, work on myself, not only as a player, but also develop myself as a person while traveling around the world. And I felt like it was important to educate myself. And of course, I thought that if one day I cannot play tennis, which can happen, it's an individual sport, you have a lot of injuries and many things can happen, that you can have a backup plan and do something else.
That's fantastic that you did that, because we hear the story of so many athletes around the world whose careers come to an end very quickly because of injury, like you say. And a lot of them don't have backup plans, do they? And they find themselves in a lot of trouble in terms of, their self-belief and self-conscience. A lot of them go off the rails and get involved in, alcohol or drugs and things. And I just had a lady on the show the other day who was a football captain for the Australian women's soccer team, and she had a very hard time at the end of her career because she didn't have a backup plan. Is that something that was quite prominent across the Russian sports people? Is that something they always look at doing, is having a backup plan?
I'm not sure about that. I think it's very individual. You make your choices in life, but when you're a professional athlete, it is quite demanding. You train the whole day, every day. Maybe you have one day off a week, and there is not much time. You really have to push yourself, and it's not easy. I've done it on the road. I had some injuries throughout my career. I had some breaks of 3 to 6 months or even longer. So during those breaks, I was really focused on, educating myself, like basically using my time for something else. But must tell that it's not easy. It's not easy to do, because even if whenever you are injured, you are doing everything to get back as fast as you can back on court. So you're pretty much in physical rehab, I don't know, full day.
Yeah.
So it's not easy either.
Now, you turned professional in 2000. How was it in terms of going from the amateur ranks into the professional world of tennis? Was there a big step up? Did you find that difficult to start off with, or were you naturally feeling at home as a professional player?
Well, the transition is one of the most difficult parts in tennis. I guess it's a very difficult stage in your career. But for me, it happened very quick. I did not expect it to happen like this. But like I said, I won one tournament, then I won another professional tournament, which allowed me to play a qualifying at the Roland Garros. And that year, I qualified and made it to the fourth round. I was the only one who took a set from Serena Williams that year when she won her French Open. So it was a very quick transition, like within really 5-6 months from not being really ranked like 600 or 700 in the world. I went to pretty much 50 in the world, making all Grand Slams main draws. So that happened so fast that I did not even have time to think about it. And I know that this doesn't happen this way to everybody, but I got lucky, and I tried. From there on, I think I had an understanding that, okay, I'm there, and now I need to work even harder to be able to stay out there, because it's not easy.
I think you're being a little bit humble, because I think there was a lot more than luck involved. You're obviously very, very good at the game, but you also understood the opportunities that were in front of you. Now, Russia's had a lot of great women tennis players. Why is that?
Well, the generation when Kurnikova came on stage, before her, there was, Elena Likovtseva, Tatiana Panova, then Kurnikova, then we had Anastasia Myskina, Elena Dementieva, and so on, and us, a bit younger players. I think we all started our tennis path, like I said earlier, when Boris Yeltsin introduced tennis to the country, when it became very popular. And a lot of players, young kids went to tennis clubs. Mm-hmm. They went to learn tennis, and that created a big competition within the club itself, between the kids. And, when you have that competition, then you will have better players coming.
Yeah, true. Now, I said to you before the show that I wanted to ask you some questions today that you've never been asked before. So here's one of those questions. Do you know how many professional women tennis players there's been from Russia on the tour?
Depends from which year.
Well, let's say from the open era of women's tennis on the tour, yeah? So from the
Okay, there are many that are ranked on the ITF circuit, but maybe you're talking about some like ranking category, like top 100 or something.
Yeah, let's say top 100.
How many top 100 players? I would say about 200.
Not far away. 135 is the right answer to that question. So there you go. You're pretty good on that one.
Yeah, there were many, yes, for sure.
What did you learn the most about yourself when you turned professional? What were some of the things from a human point of view that you learnt about yourself, Vera, as a human being?
Well, tennis taught me everything, about life and about myself. It taught me a discipline. It taught me hard work. I learned how to, deal with wins and losses. I learned how to, stay maybe positive. What doesn't matter what was happening on the court. There are many things. It was my life for, almost like 20 years before my first child was born. Then, of course, my life turned around a little bit, but tennis is still means a lot to me.
Let's talk about coaching. When did you have your first coach with you on tour?
On tour, I think I started working with someone at the age of 18, and sometimes I would travel on my own, but most of the times from the age of 18, I had a coach, and sometimes I was sharing a coach with somebody else, but there was always someone who could help me.
I guess a lot of the audience would like to know, how do you actually select a coach? What do you look for in that relationship with a coach?
Well, it is not easy. It's like, when you meet someone in life and eventually that person becomes your wife or, husband, it takes time. How, you have to feel good with a person. You have to feel comfortable, because if you feel comfortable, then for sure you can work harder. Also, you have to be able to spend a lot of time with each other, because when you travel around the world, you're on the court together, and a lot of the times off the court you spend with your coach. You can eat lunch and dinner and talk about other things besides tennis, which is also important to take your head away from the game and relax. And you also have to feel confident that a person can influence your improvement on the court. So it's a combination of I guess coaching and also the kind of personal interaction.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of the times players could change their coach quite often, just because it seems like they fit good on the court, but they don't get along off the court when they have to travel all the time. Or it's opposite. You get along very well off the court, but you feel like that after 2 or 3 months, there is nothing else that your coach can help you with to become a better player. And you just have to make the professional choice. You have to maybe look for someone who can be a better help for you on the court. So it is very complicated.
Yeah, it's a very unique situation, isn't it? Because there's not many situations in the world where you get to spend so much time with someone that's being a supporter, a mentor, a technical guru for you, as you say, traveling the world. Is it one of those things that after you appoint a coach and you start working together in the early days, do you know straight away whether it's going to work or not?
No, you never know. You never know. You have to try it out. And sometimes it looks like you get along really well for the first 4-6 weeks, but then down the road, like 4 or 5 months later, you realize that, look, it's not going as I wanted it to go. It's not working out, and it's not beneficial for me as a player anymore. So then you have to make some hard choices. But, for coaches, it is also not easy because they have to work with different players. Everyone has its own personality. It's an individual sport. It's individual. It's a tough sport. But coach has to have an ability to adjust to a player they're coaching, and they have to have something special that allows them to see what that particular player needs, as on the court, but also off the court. Some players don't want to talk between matches at all. They just want to go on the court, do their job, listen to their coach, and focus on their matches. And some players, they need to have jokes around them between matches. I don't know. They want to have a very relaxed atmosphere, and that's what coach needs to bring to the player. But it's not easy.
So what are some of the attributes that you look for in a coach for yourself? What areas do you specifically look at they need to have special talents or behavior areas that are going to work for you?
Well, I think I'm quite an experienced and mature player by now. So for sure, I'm a different player compared to myself 20 years ago. So at this stage of my career, the most important for me is that what that coach can help me with on the court during my trainings, what can he do for me to improve my game, but also how he can prepare me for my match, what advices he can give me, and also what kind of support he can give me during the matches. If he's feeling me as a player, sometimes he needs to be quiet during the match, and sometimes if he sees me a little bit tired or something, then maybe he needs to give me a little bit more support, even just simple words can do it, but I have to feel that he's there for me. So I think this is very important at this stage of my career. And off the court, I'm quite busy right now. As you know, I have a family and all things to take care about. So I don't need someone to be, basically to babysit me off the court, But when I was younger, maybe it was a little bit different. Maybe I needed to feel more support off the court as well. Maybe I needed someone who could talk to me a little bit more about life in general and give me also life advices besides just, tennis advices.
Yeah, right. Where do you find a coach for a WTA player? I guess they don't hang out on LinkedIn or anywhere like that, right?
Well, no, but they usually, coaches that are on the tour, you usually talk to other players that worked with those coaches in the past. And of course, we have our Player Zone website where you can have some coaches, the list of coaches that are available now that worked on the tour in the past. They have to pass a special exam with the WTA tour to be on that list.
Right.
And you can always talk to your colleagues. The tennis world, in fact, it's quite a small world.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you just talk to other coaches or players or agents, and you see who is available.
I'm very big on equality in sport, and I'm trying to promote as many women as we can on this show. So are we seeing a increasing number of women coaches on the tour now, both on the men's and the women's side?
Well, I think on the women's side, I could see an increase of female coaches for sure.
Mm-hmm.
On the men's side, I'm not sure about that. I think it's it's still quite rare. But for sure on the women's side, many female coaches are willing to travel now. And I think it also, time changed, women can still do their jobs even if they have family, even if they have kids. They're still able to travel. Compared to the times before, I felt like women had to stay more at home to take care about kids and family. And I think technology nowadays allows us to do much more, especially, for myself. I'm still traveling, and my family is not with me most of the times, but I can FaceTime every day with my daughter, and it is very important, because if I didn't have that technology, for sure I would not be able to play my full schedule on the tour.
Yeah, that's so true. And as much as I would love to be sitting in Dubai interviewing you face to face today, we can be on the other side of the world and still have a conversation. So I guess that can happen from a coaching point of view as well. What's your position on having coaches on the court during matches? Do you think that's something that tennis should look at, or are you against that?
I would say I am more against it for several reasons. First of all, I think that once someone said that tennis is a chess and movement, which I agree. I mean, the game is much more physical now, for sure, than it used to be. But still, you have to be able to figure it out on the court for yourself. You have to be able to change your tactics if something is not working, or to see what's your opponent's weaknesses or strength yourself. If, let's say, the plan before your match is not working. It's an individual sport, and it's a competition between two individuals. Then you can go through analysis with your coach after the match, but during the match you have to be out there on your own. Second, we pay our coaches to travel with us, and if top players can afford a coach and maybe a physio, a fitness trainer, and mental coach, or many people in their team, and those people probably travel with them, lower ranked players cannot afford a coach. So then we create an unequal, situation during the match, and it is even more difficult for lower ranked players to become, top players in that situation. And I think there are many other reasons why I would be against it, but I also understand maybe an entertainment point of view. Tennis, we can only play tennis if we have sponsors to provide us opportunities to play, to give us some tournaments.
Yep.
And if they want to see some kind of entertainment and they love to see on-court coaching, well, I understand that point as well, and it's a good reason to have it.
How often does the WTA come to the players and say, look, we've got a whole bunch of ideas here on how we want to innovate the game. We want to sit down and talk to you, the players, about those things. How often does that happen, or does it happen?
Well, it does. It's an organization, and we have players' representatives. We vote for them, and they stay there for 2 years. So those, we call them player council. The player council is often at the meetings during the events. They have meetings with the WTA, with the tournament directors. It's a big system, actually. And they have those meetings quite a few times a year. Sometimes those meetings could last for 4 or 5 hours. And I've been on the council before. When I was younger, maybe early 20s. And all those ideas I introduced there. And then the player council can vote, basically for them or against them. Of course, there are not only players that decide that, tournaments decide that as well, the organization decides as well, but everyone votes. And then, we see the outcomes of it.
How quickly do new ideas actually come into the game? So, for instance, if there was a decision made to bring coaches onto the courts, how quickly could that process actually happen?
I think within 1 year,
Okay.
it happens. If ideas there, then I think the council will meet a few times, and tournament directors will meet a few times, and they will implement it. They will put it in the rule book for the next year, and the next year you can start with a coach. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's switch up now and talk about tennis court surfaces, because you're in one of those wonderful positions where you get to play in the amazing Grand Slams across the world. They're all played on different surfaces. You talked earlier about growing up in Moscow and playing on carpet. What was your favourite surface when you first started, when you were young in your early 20s?
Well, for sure that was clay. Because summertime, like I said, 4 months a year we played outdoors and we played on clay. I've never seen the hard court before. And the carpet court that we had, it was quite slow, so it was a bit similar to clay. So for me, clay was my favorite surface. But it has changed. I had a bad injury on clay, and then after that, I felt like I was feeling much better on the hard courts. And since then, since probably 2010, I would say that hard court is my preferable surface. But I also like to play on grass.
We're going to talk about obviously some of your results in your big matches shortly. But before we get there, for the people that are listening in today who probably spend most of their life watching tennis on television, can you explain to us how difficult it is to get used to the different surfaces and adapting your game to play on the different surfaces?
Yeah, for sure. I know, you all talk about surfaces, but we also change balls as well. Some tournaments have different sponsorships and, let's say, popular brands, but those balls can differ in a little bit in size and also the weight of the ball. So every time we have to adjust, and it's not easy. And especially, the game is quite physical right now. So your body has to be ready to run, on grass. You have one type of footwork. On hard court, another type of footwork. Clay, you have a lot of sliding. So you have to really prepare your bodies before you switch surfaces. And sometimes the transition is so fast that you don't really get any days off between, clay court season, hard court season, grass court season. You just finish the tournament, and next day you're already training your body to switch to another surface.
Right, yeah, very interesting about the balls as well. What's your stance on the technology and rackets these days? Because obviously from the time when you started up until this day, we've also seen a huge advancement in technology with the frames, but also the strings. What are your thoughts about where the technology and rackets is going?
Well, I actually started with a wood racket.
Me too. Me too.
We could not buy rackets in Russia. And I remember that my first racket, I actually got a present. That's what I remember when I was in London. I got a new racket, and it was great. It was so different from that wood racket, heavy one that I had. And, my mom, she had to actually cut the handle to make it shorter for me because I was so small, it was too heavy for me. So I remember all that, but for sure technology helps players, but on the other hand, it makes the game much faster, much quicker. You have to be physically so fit that if you're a little bit off with your, physical condition, you can lose the match very fast to even a lower ranked player because you just have to be always very fit. That's the rule nowadays. And this is very different from before. I feel like if you had a much better technique and you weren't maybe as fit, you will still be better than, let's say, your opponent who is not as good with the technique. Yeah. But nowadays you can compensate some things because technology helps you, but at the same time you have to be very fit to do that.
Now, I'm really thrilled to be talking to you today because it's not every day you get to talk to a Grand Slam finalist, but also a Grand Slam winner. And you've done both of those. So anybody that's in the tennis world there, I guess their biggest dream and ambition is to get to the final of a Grand Slam. And you've done it twice in singles and a number of times. I think you won 5 doubles Grand Slam finals. Is that right?
Yes, I won 3 doubles finals, 2 mixed doubles finals, and once more I think I played in a Wimbledon doubles final as well.
Okay, fantastic. So your singles finals were at Wimbledon and the US Open, played on different surfaces of course, but also the pinnacle of the sport in terms of those 2 stadiums. What was it like to play centre court finals day at Wimbledon for a start?
Well, it's great. You dream about that day, you dream about that big stage, and then when you're finally out there, I feel like for a moment, you have a moment where you look around and you can enjoy atmosphere, but it's a brief moment, because then you have to focus on what you have to do, and you still have to approach your final match as just another match. You shouldn't make a huge deal out of it. Otherwise, your emotions can overwhelm and you may not be able to produce your best tennis. So I felt like, I was out there, I let myself enjoy it for a minute, but then I was back on earth, back back there, just playing my match.
Yeah. Now, I've been fortunate enough to stand on centre court at Wimbledon a couple of times, and the first thing that really surprises me is it's a lot smaller than it looks on television, isn't it?
Yes, it is a very comfortable court to play on.
Yeah. And how was that day for you? We don't necessarily have to talk about the result, but after you'd finished the match and you went back into the locker room, what are some of the emotions that you're feeling about playing on the greatest tennis court in the world? Which I think it is. It probably, a lot of people would be upset with me in saying that, but I think it's the greatest tennis court in the world.
Well, for sure, it is a special court, that day I remember, I had to actually, after that singles final, I had to come back 2 hours later to play my doubles final.
Oh.
So for me, it was very difficult. I felt like I gave it all. The tournament, I felt like I had no more energy. I was dead. I was crying, not because I lost the match, but because I had to actually go back there and play another
again.
one. Play again. And, I felt like, I was dead. And I felt so bad for my doubles partner, Elena, that I felt like, well, she had to really play on her own today against two players that were ready. It was tough for me. It was very tough. And once it all finished, all I could feel was a relief. I'm like, okay, it's just finished.
Yeah.
And, the thing is that I had no time to realize, to process the whole thing, because the next morning I had to fly out for my best friend's wedding to Dominican Republic.
Oh.
So I was okay, I have no time, but I have to make that wedding. It's my best friend. We've been friends since the first grade. We sat together at my school every day from 1st to 11th grade. And I'm like, I can't miss it.
Yeah.
I have to do it. Because when she asked me first, what day should I put my wedding for? I said, well, put it the day after Wimbledon final. I don't think I was,
right.
expecting to play singles and doubles on that day. And I'm like, just do it. It's fine. I'll make it. And then I'm playing the singles and doubles final, and I know that I have to fly to Dominican Republic the next morning. But I guess I just felt a relief. And it's only, a few months later, I think I realized my achievements.
Yeah.
And I realized that maybe it is the highlight of the career, and it's what I was working so hard for the past 20 years.
That's a really interesting point, and it's one I wanted to ask you about, because you are so busy traveling around the world all the year, going from tournament to tournament. Looking back at your own career so far, do you think you've spent enough time celebrating the milestones of your career, such as that one and all the many other wins that you've had on tour?
I'm not sure I've celebrated any of those.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I only realized, what I've done in my career only when I had time off. While I was pregnant and cleaning my house, I was coming to that, the big closet where I keep all my trophies, and then I would have a moment there looking at those trophies. I'm like, Vera, you've done actually great in your career.
Yeah.
You have so many trophies.
Yeah.
And and I could never think this way while I was on tour. I always felt like, okay, I could have played better this match. Okay, and now this match is finished, but next week I have another tournament. I have to start focusing on that. I have no time to, to celebrate, relax, and enjoy the moment. And I think that actually something that I was good at, forgetting my matches, but forgetting not only losses, but I was also
The
forgetting
forgetting
the
wins.
wins as well. It was, for me, the transition was so quick. The match was finished. The next morning, I'm already on the mission for the next tournament. And I think that really helped me throughout the career, but also maybe I missed some things, and maybe I could have taken some things easier, and maybe I shouldn't have rushed so much, and maybe I would have prevented some injuries, because also when you're on a mission like that, and you're going from one week to another week to another week, eventually you get injured because you don't give yourself a break.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And is that something you would advise young people who are listening and watching us today, and they're taking on a sports career? Would you advise them to enjoy the journey more? Make sure you do celebrate the small milestones along the way?
Definitely.
Yeah.
They have to enjoy what they're doing. But I think the most important to have people that can remind you about that. Because when you're young and when you're a player, you sometimes don't see the big picture. You're maybe too happy when you have so many wins in a row, or you could get very down when you have few losses in a row, and you don't see the full picture. But it's very important to have people that can remind you to relax, to enjoy, and take some moments for yourself, and not be rushed into training and the next competition. Of course, you have to work hard, but it's all about the balance.
Vera, I tell you what, listening to you saying that, I think you created a problem for yourself, because you won so many tournaments and you were so successful that you would have been partying all the time if you had the chance to, yeah?
Well, I'm not sure actually if partying would help me to to win most matches, but yeah, it's about the balance. It's
Yeah, of
not
course.
easy to find the balance, and for every player, the balance will shift to one side or another. But they have to learn about themselves. They have to ask themselves what they've done right or wrong, and help themselves to find that balance to prolong their careers.
Yeah, exactly right. Now let's go back to 2010, because it was such a special year for you. You made the Wimbledon final, and the doubles again there as well. You then went to the US Open and made the singles final at the US Open. Tell us about that experience in particular, because you'd been in the final in Wimbledon, you backed it up again at the US Open. Did it give you an air of confidence going into another final so quickly?
I guess so. When you make a finals of such a big event, and you feel like you're playing one of your best tennis, and you usually find some strength inside yourself to make those finals, and you trying to hang on to that, and it gives you a lot of confidence, and then it's easier for you to produce your best tennis in the moments when you need it, and it helps you to get through some tough matches to make some other good results.
So you finished the year ranked 2 in the world in 2010 as well, so it was a really stellar year. How did you feel at the end of 2010? Did you think, right, I can really be one of the serious best players in the women's game at this stage?
I was never looking my ranking. I was never thinking about myself as I don't know, one of the best players out there. I knew that I could win every match that I'm playing, but to do so, I needed to produce my best tennis. And I think I wasn't giving myself, too much thought about it. I was just playing tennis, and I was trying to focus on every match. And I played so many other finals at the big events that year as well. I was able to win some, but I lost also a lot. And I think on those days, those players were just better than me. And I was just focused on trying to figure out what can I do better to win that final the next time.
It must be really difficult to back up after having such an emotional high as well as a physical high. I'm sure that after you've played a very successful tournament like that, your body must be really drained because you've gone through emotionally, spiritually and physically, haven't you? You've put everything out there on the court. So probably going to your friend's wedding was a good thing to be able to take you away and relax for a few days as well, yeah?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That was also a good choice, I guess. But anyways, once it's all finished, you're back to working hard. And actually, when you win matches, you get that extra energy to work even harder. It's a little bit more difficult to push yourself when you already working hard, but you're losing matches. And then you're like, what am I working for? I felt like I was working so hard, but I still lost that match and that match, too many. And I think, once you're on that winning track, you want to try or keep playing as much as you can because you feel like this is your window of opportunity, that it is your period when you're playing your best and you want to continue. But sometimes you can get burned with it. And that's when I was talking about finding the right balance and having the right people next to you who could see a bigger picture.
Yeah. You talked earlier about injuries. Let's go into a little bit of detail because you've had a couple of times where you've had to take time off because of pretty serious injuries. What was the first one? What happened and how long were you out of the game for?
Well, I had a wrist injury when I was much younger, around 20 years old, but it kept me away for, 3-4 months. But I would not consider that the most, serious injury in my career. Then, of course, I injured my ankle in Charleston. I fell badly and I was in the cast for almost like 2 months. It was a very bad ankle injury. I ended up having a surgery, but, was able to come back a few months later. And I think the toughest injury for me was my shoulder injury. Mm-hmm. It was London Olympics was my last event that I was able to play with my shoulder. I had to miss a couple months before the Olympics because of that shoulder. Eventually, I decided to do the cortisone injection just to get me through the Olympics because I really wanted to play that event in London. But once the event was finished, I felt like I could not open the fridge with my right arm anymore. I was like, could not reach. I was doing it like this. And so then I took a few months off to try to heal the injury and see what's happening. But even after a few months, it was not better at all, like zero progress. So eventually I went into another surgery and it took me another year to do the rehab for it. A year of rehab. I tried to come back to the tour, but I felt like my shoulder was still not good.
Right.
And also that's when my Achilles started to hurt badly. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I could not serve anymore. I could not run on the court anymore because of my Achilles. And then I felt like, well, it's not worth playing anymore because I felt like my game was there, but my physical abilities weren't. And I felt like I was losing matches just because I could not serve and could not run. And it could be a close match, but I felt like I have no chance of winning those. So then at that point, I had to stop and take a break from tennis while I got married and had my first child.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I had no intention on coming back to professional tennis. And then eventually one day I went to play tennis and I realized I played with some juniors, and just for fun. And I realized, well, my shoulder is much better. My Achilles don't hurt that much anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling just good. And, my family was so supportive of me. And they said, look, if you want to go and play some tournaments, go. Just play a couple of tournaments and then you decide. If you don't want to do it, you don't. If you still want to do it, we'll support you. And, maybe you can have one more year of your, career. And that's how it all started again. And now I'm back on tour.
Your husband's name's Alexander. How did you two meet each other?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. I always love to do some, sports besides tennis. And since I couldn't play tennis, I decided to run some, kind of half marathons, 10K, 5K running events in Moscow. I was really enjoying it. And then one day, my friend invited my future husband to run with us, at one of those events. That's how we met, and since then we were together since I guess a few years now.
Fantastic
Quite
story.
A few years, yeah.
I think a lot of those fun run events end up having couples getting together. I've heard quite a few stories like that. It's quite a good story. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It is quite popular now in Russia, and we're actually thinking about doing our triathlon one day together.
Okay, well, I highly recommend that as an ex-triathlete. I think you should give it a go because I'm sure you'll be really good at it as well.
Yeah, thanks.
So, coming back again into the tour, it's really difficult, I guess, coming back into the mainstream tour. You played a few ITF events. I remember before you first of all came back on the tour, were you surprised at the standard of play on the ITF tour?
Well, I think it has changed dramatically compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think the level of players is much higher now, especially those players who are ranked not inside 200, but between 200 and 800. You would not know the difference. They all can hit the ball. They all can serve. Like 20 years ago, you could really see a huge difference between players of, the level of 200 or 800. It was a huge difference. But now there is no difference. If you are not fit to play, even if you're a top 50 player, you can lose to a player ranked 250.
Right.
Just because you are not at your 100%. You have to be always be ready to play 100%. That's how it is right now. And I think it's great. It's a great competition.
Yep.
But for sure, it makes it more difficult for younger players, for juniors, to raise up the rankings.
Yeah.
Because the level is much higher, and it takes more time for them to get, to a higher level.
So you're having your second chapter of your career now, which is a beautiful thing to see. What are your ambitions now that you're back on tour and your rankings going up and you're getting closer to being back up to where you were before? What are the ambitions you have for not only 2021 but beyond that?
Well, just for now, I'm trying to be in the main draw of all Grand Slams first. I'm taking it step by step. I'm not really putting much pressure on myself. I want to enjoy, this maybe the second part of my career a little bit more than the first part of my career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to work as hard as I can, and I want to see how hard I can push myself and how high I can go up the rankings, or with my results at my age, because when I was younger, if I saw someone playing in their 30s, I would think, what is she still doing here? Why are they still playing? And I could not understand this. And it was quite common for players to finish their career at the age of 28, 29, 30 maximum, and never come back to the tour again. And now you can see players playing up to 40 years old, and they're still fit, and they're still playing great tennis. And I love to see it.
I want to see you back up there because we've seen so many great women over the recent years who have gone away. They've had a family. They've come back. People like, Serena's done it. Victoria Azarenka's done it. You've done it. And I'm sure there's many, many others out there as well. Do you think you have a Grand Slam final in you again? Do you think you can get back up there?
Well, I think I can play great level again. I don't know if it will, if I'll play in the finals of the Grand Slam again. But, you never know. If you work hard and you're able to produce your best tennis when you need it, we'll see what's going to happen. Yeah,
great. Before I let you go today, are we going to see you in Australia for the Australian Open in February?
Yes, that's the plan. So I'll start my season in Abu Dhabi. And then we will all fly to Australia on specially organized charter flights for tennis players from Dubai. And then we will quarantine there for 14 days. And then hopefully we will have a few events to play, including the Australian Open.
How difficult is it as a professional sports person with COVID-19 around the world now, having to adjust to all these different scenarios that you have to go through to not only get to your events, but during the events you're going to be under very different regulations and situations. We don't know about crowds and everything as yet. How does that all play in your mind?
Well, I'm just trying to focus on preparing myself and focus on winning my matches. But for sure, it affects professional sports. But I don't think it only affects professional sports. It affects everyone around the world, no matter what your job is. It's difficult for everybody. So all we can do is just to adjust to the situation and try to do our best what we can in the conditions. And if it means that we have to quarantine for 14 days, we will do that just as long as we can continue our training, because it's very important for us, because we're working so hard. I've been in training since 5 weeks now during this preseason, and it's a hard training. And if I go to Australia and I have to quarantine for 14 days with no training, I have to start from zero again. That's very difficult. But hopefully we will all be allowed to train, and it's fine. We will survive the quarantine, and then hopefully we can have some crowds finally.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm going to do my very best to get down to Melbourne to see the Australian Open next year. So I hope that I'll be able to at least wave to you from a distance. So I was just saying that I'm going to do my very best to get down to Melbourne to watch the Australian Open in February. So maybe I'll be able to wave out from behind a fence somewhere and say, hello, Vera.
Yes, sure. I will be excited to see you there.
Well, listen.
And actually, as well, some other real fans on site, because we've been playing without fans, and it's not fun. We would love to see you guys out there.
Fantastic. Well, listen, on behalf of everybody that's listening and watching today, thank you very much for giving us your time at Christmas time to talk, and good luck with not only Melbourne but all the rest of your tennis career, because you've been a fantastic ambassador for the game. We love watching you play, and I know you're going to have lots of great success in the future.
Thank you very much.
There we are. That was Vera Zvonareva talking to me from Dubai as she prepares for the early season of the 2021 season. She'll be heading down to Melbourne for the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year. What a fantastic story to listen to her and her tennis journey. She's been a wonderful player over the years, up to number 2 in the world rankings. And just talking to her offline, Vera's got some very strong ambitions to get to the top of the game once again. And who would doubt her with the talent she's got, the commitment and courage and determination? She's really a fighter, and I'm sure she's going to do lots of great things in the next couple of years. So check out Vera on her journeys with the Australian Open in February now. It's been delayed by a few weeks from January into February. And you'll be able to cheer her on and remember when she was on the Global Sports Channel here with us. So I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. We're heading into Christmas here down under. And Vera was just telling me how she's going to spend it there in Dubai. And wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful Christmas. And thank you for supporting us at the Global Sports Channel. Check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course. And check out our website at globalsportschannel.com. I'll be back in the new year with lots more interviews of sports stars from across the world. Until then, have a very happy, safe and prosperous Christmas. Bye for now.